Hi there, Jasper here and welcome back to our CSS tutorial. In this video, we will discuss CSS selectors. Why? Because I think selectors are the very first thing that needs to be studied because CSS is like this. You first select the HTML elements within your web page and then you apply your styles such as colors, spacing, etc. So you can see why selectors might be important. Okay, let's begin. The very first selector that I will show you is the universal selector. This selector selects everything within its scope. Let me show you. Here is our HTML page with some div and a few paragraphs and a few spans. Notice how it's displayed on our browser. We will see that everything is black. Okay, let's go to our style. Then type asterisk, which is the universal selector, then our curly braces, and within would be our CSS command. In this case, I'm gonna go with color red. Save, and let's see. We can see everything turns red, which is what we expected. Next would be the element selector because we don't really use one color within the whole web page, do we? So we need to start being more specific into what we're selecting. Let's see our HTML code again. Note that we have 4 spans here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we want to color only the span, let's go to our style and we will replace our universal selector with the span. Click save and let's see what happens. After saving, we can see that only the text within the span turned red. An improvement. So this span, that span, 3 and 4. Now, we can use any valid tags as selector. To prove that, let's try and replace span with P. Okay, let's select the paragraph and here is our output again. If I save, let's see what happens. All the P tags got selected, this P and that P, right? So this and that. However, we can see that everything inside the P, even the span, this lorem and this lorem ipsum, also turned red. This is how CSS works. The child element, in the absence of a specific CSS style, inherits the style from the parent. We can say that the style is cascading. Hence, the term cascading style sheet. Okay, in order to avoid this and just select, for example, this span, we need to be even more specific. Alright, let's try coloring these two spans here, which is the span inside the div. In this case, we will have to append the parent to our selector. So let's go here. So we want to select the span, right? Then we want to append the div, the prepend rather. So if I save, and let's see what happened. Okay, only the span within the div got styled red. The other spans, for example, this one and this one, did not. And notice that the span can be deep inside the div and it won't matter. As long as there's a parent div somewhere, then the span, this span will get selected. So that's why it's called a descendant selector. In order for us to just select this span, we have to be even more specific. What I mean is, since this span has a paragraph element and the div is the grandparent, then we can do this. So div paragraph span, div p span, div p span. Hit save, see what happens. Okay, we can see that only this span turned red. Notice our selector is just how it's laid out in the HTML. So we can follow the pattern of how it's coded in order to really target our desired element. Alright, I said descendant selectors select everything no matter how deep it is located. It could be the child, grandchild, etc. But the question now is there a way to just select the immediate child? There is a way, of course, and this is done through the child selector. For example, here, if we just want to select this span, which is the immediate child of the div, we can do this div, and then instead of P, we'll add the greater than symbol, which is the symbol for the immediate child. Hit save and see what happened. Okay, so only the click me turned red because it is the immediate child of the div. Okay, cool. But what if you want to select both the immediate child? So I want to select the P and I want to select the span. Well, we can do this div greater than symbol span and then div greater than symbol P. And instead of color, because it will color everything, I want to do a border, solid red. And I will explain this on another video. For now, save. Okay, so we can see that there's a div P and the span got the same style applied. So CSS commands inside the curly braces, this one will apply to everything on the list of comma separated values. But what if there's a lot of children element? Let's say I added an aside here or a section. Do we list everything as comma separated selectors, or is there a way to select them all? Well, if you haven't forgotten already, then we have our universe selector. And instead of doing a comma separated values like this, we can do asterisk, hit save, and the asterisk will mean select everything which is the immediate child of the div. So the paragraph, the span, aside section, they will all have the same style applied to them. Let's see what happens. Okay, cool. Okay, that's for the child. There is another selector, and this time it's for the sibling, right? So the paragraph is the sibling of the div because they are on the same level. So the siblings are div, this paragraph, and then this span. Now, we can select a sibling element through the use of the plus operator. Let's see. So for example, I want to select the paragraph here, then the div, I'll delete first. And what we want to select is the paragraph, right? But we want to select the paragraph which is immediately after a div. So the plus sign would serve as the adjacent sibling selector. I'll hit save and then see what happens. Okay, so as we can see, this paragraph got selected. Now, an important thing to note is there's a paragraph there. Then I'll add one more and let's see. Okay, these two paragraphs did not get selected. Why? Because they're not adjacent to a sibling div. If we want to select everything, all the paragraphs after a div, then instead of the plus symbol, we will replace it with the tilde. Hit save and see what happens. Okay, we can see that the three paragraphs got selected. So div tilde P will select all paragraphs after a div. Now let's say what's gonna happen if we add the paragraph after the span. Hit save. Okay, it still got selected. Why? Because this P is still after a div. Now, as an aside, this tilde sign, if you still don't know, is the symbol before the character 1 on your keyboard. Okay, this is all well and good. What if we just want to select something without bothering to know where it is or what its parent elements are? In this case, we can make use of IDs. So let's add an ID here somewhere. So I'll add here ID, then I'll type first, save, and then to select this ID, we type hashtag and then the ID name. Okay, the hashtag or the pound sign will denote the ID. Now, we can also append the div here and it will still work, but since we already have an ID identifier, we usually omit the element name. Let's save. Alright, so only the div that apply the style. Now, if we can make use of ID, then we can make use of its sister concept, which is the class. So I'm gonna add a class here. So second, and then I'm gonna add a class here. And then in order to select the class, we need to add a dot sign and then the class name. Then I'll add border, and this time let's make it green. So this one will select all elements with the class of second. Save, and as we can see, they got styled as per our command. Remember how anchor tags have this thing called pseudo-classes like link, visited, hover, and active? It turns out that we can also target these using pseudo-selectors. How? Let's add an anchor tag here and say click me and then a break tag, and then let's see what happens. Okay, so here is our anchor tag. Now let's add our pseudo selector here or a pseudo class and then type hover and then our CSS command color red. So what this means is when we hover our mouse over our anchor tag, turn it red. Save, see what happened. And I'm gonna hover. There we go. Now link, visited, and active is particular to anchor tags. However, hover can be used by other elements. For example, we want to add a hover into our ID and into our class. That's still allowed. See what happens. So let's go to our document. If we hover to our div, hover to our div and to our classes, that you can see that the hover is taking effect. This is a very important technique that we will make use of in subsequent chapters. Okay, for our final selector, we will now discuss attributes. You know, sometimes there are elements that have the same tags but different attributes. We see these in forms where there are multiple variations of the input element. Let's see how this works. Let's add the form. Then let's add a couple of input, type text, then go br, then input of type number, br, then input of type, let's say, email, right? So all of them are input but of different types. So if we try to view this on the screen, so this would be the text, and you can type text here, and this would be the number, and you can see that it's a number because of the up down arrow. And instead of email, let's make this a date, and we can see that now there is a date, right? I'll add the break tag here. Now, in order to select and differentiate between different element of the same name, we can target these. These are called attributes. So let's see. So we want to select an input and then open and close parentheses and then our CSS command. Now what is inside these parentheses would be our attributes, and we can just copy what we need from our HTML element like so. Copy there, then add the color red and save and see what happens. So if I type, see that it is red, but here it's not red and the date is also not red. Now if we want to, for example, select the date, save, and see the date turned red. So any type of attribute can be selected. For example, our anchor tag here, let's add a target of blank. So we will select this element with the target of blank. So I'll add another element, anchor tag here, click and say search, then break, save, and see that we have two elements, the search and the click me. Now we want to select just the one with the target. So again, anchor, open and close braces, bracket, curly braces, and then copy what you want there, then add color red. See what happens. Okay, so click me, which is the one with the target blank attributes, now red. And there you have it. These are all the basic CSS selectors, and I think this is just about what you might need when starting to learn. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye bye, take care, and I hope to see you soon.